Today on The Baller's Voice, we are bringing to you the juice with a twist. Now, what do I mean by a twist? This episode, of course, is a video, but also this video is a response to what some of the BBL owners said on Hootsfix's video regarding whether players should go to the States or to the BBL. Enjoy this one with a glass of juice. Might need a pint. It's quite a long one. I'm sorry, where are my manners? My name is Tosin, aka Tos P, aka The Baller's Voice. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to give a comment and a like if you like it. Really interested to hear what you guys think. Right, onto the video.
Here we have Chuck Duru, we have Ishmael Fontaine, Justin Hitchman, and myself. We all listened into on Sam Neater's podcast with a lot of BBL owners. We thought, what better way to respond than to take it to Zoom? I think it's worth doing a round robin and making an open conversation about what we feel. For me personally, it was between 30 minutes and 40 minutes, which particularly is important, where you're talking about players should play in the BBL over the States, namely, in this case, D1.
When I heard the podcast, that was something that stuck out to me. First of all, it was a really good podcast. Let me just say that. I appreciate, the five guys, from Newcastle, Leicester, Plymouth, Sheffield, and London, and Vince from London. I appreciate them, being fairly open with and doing the roundtable talk. But this topic around youth development, I think, to be honest, it kind of, when I initially heard it, I was kind of like, what are they talking about? They're talking rubbish. That was my initial reaction. But after sort of thinking and processing, and I kind of get where they're coming from. I still don't agree with them. With regards to going to America, someone who, I did a year in prep school, got to play against some really, really good teams in the States, did all right. The biggest thing for me from what they said was, like it or not, I think one of the problems I have with English basketball is that the people at the top maybe aren't as aware of where Britain sits in the ecosystem of basketball. So what I mean when I say that is we're not, first and foremost, if we look at it from our professional teams, we don't have any teams in the EuroLeague. We don't have any teams who are, year on year competing in Premier European competitions. We literally, all we have is, domestic basketball for an offer as a professional league. And, Leicester did a year in FIBA Europe, lost 6 out of 6, That's the bottom. That was the truth. That's the bottom line. Albeit against some good teams, but where we sit in terms of the ecosystem in Europe, we're not nowhere near the top. Some could argue if we're in the middle of the pack, probably somewhere in the middle. But I say that to say, if you've got, I see British players, in the sense in 3 tiers. So you've got your top tier, your Cameron Hildreths, your Jeremys, those guys who are when I was growing up, it was the Devon Van Oostroms, those top guys who potentially, should be playing in we'd hope to think, the big leagues in Europe, or that's their sort of, that appears to be their ceiling when they're young. The BBL can't offer them anything. The only thing the BBL can offer those guys is a stepping stone before they go on to something else. So, for example, whether that's playing in the BBL for a season before going to America or before going to Europe when you're 16, 17, which I think is good. I think that's what the BBL can do for those players. There's the tier below that who are the guys who maybe end up at small D1s, decent D2s. And that seemed to be, the kind of players that, they spoke about when we were talking on Twitter. Those are the ones who, that I guess they were saying should go to the BBL instead of going to America. And I personally think, and I'll say this again, if you've got the opportunity to go to America, particularly college, and including JUCO as well, what your sort of room for development in America is way higher than it is in the BBL. Why I say that is, first and foremost, is, in America, you're going somewhere where, whether it's JUCO, whether it's college, you're going somewhere where you've got access to facilities 24 hours a day. You can't have that. That alone separates America and England like this. 2 teams in this country have their own facility. 2 teams and So if you're
There's
not,
only 13 teams.
there's 11 teams, and
Oh,
two
it's even worse.
have their own facility. There's 11 in it. 11 teams. 12 was the Royals, right? So two
Yeah, it's
teams.
11.
Yeah. So two teams have their own facility in the BBL. Versus America, every college from NAI Division 2 has their own facility. JUCOs have their own facility. Like when I was in the States, we went to a college for the night, and I was getting shot up at 3 a.m. You think health and safety laws will let you do that in England? You know what I mean? So on that respect, you know, you've got access to, you know, and they were saying on Twitter, like, you know, why go to D2, JUCO, like, but it's like, first, we'll get to JUCO because that's a whole nother conversation. But like, in terms of comparing, you know, being in England between, you know, your prime development years, which is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, versus being somewhere where, one, you've got access to the best facilities, two, you've got access to high quality staff, trainers, medical staff, like all of that stuff. Because you get that in all the way down to D3. You get that, even if at your fee-paying universities, you get that. Whereas in England, if we look at what's on offer, you know, you've got, I want to put Loughborough kind of out of this because they're an exception to the rule. They probably have, you know, America level in terms of, you know, what they can offer. They're the closest thing. Mm-hmm. So outside of Loughborough, there's no other university can compete with even Division 3 universities in America, let alone D2. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's the incentive to play in the BBL as opposed to, if you're a, you know, D2 level player, as opposed to going to America?
I feel, and this is what I said on Twitter, I said it will be beneficial to those type of players. So I agree with you, they are kind of free tiers. Like the top players shouldn't even consider BBL. I'm not going to lie, because obviously they should be aiming higher. But the mid-tier players and the third-tier players, if they're going to be on the BBL teams, they need to have good roles. And there's no point in having these junior players just being the 11th, 12th guys on the bench. They're going to get somewhat better. Of course you would. Like when I was at Northumbria, I got better for training with the guys. But that alone wasn't allowing me to get better. I was obviously playing for Northumbria. Now, I don't think that's good for players that aspire to go professional, because I've seen many players that have been in that situation where they stayed on the 11th of 12th man on the bench, hardly got any minutes, and they just keep bouncing teams trying to find a new situation. And it happens all the time. And they just don't get better. And so why would you stay at somewhere that's not going to play you? It doesn't make sense. Like it's good in theory to say, oh yeah, we want these players to come. But if they're not going to start, or they're going to get within the 8-man rotation, then I don't think it's beneficial to any player.
Do you know what? Just on that. Sorry, can I just to touch on that? Yeah, like, because I've got a kind of different stance. Like, you can develop, you know, in an environment and not necessarily be playing big minutes, especially when you're young. True. Like, I don't agree with, you know, I don't think it's fair to say if you're not going to have a starting role at 18, 19, you should, you know what I mean? That should be the premise for why you leave. But what my biggest thing is that, and I said this on Twitter, I said, there's a ceiling for how much you can develop in England.
Correct.
And that ceiling is the best you can be in England is the best. If you stay in England, is the best player in the BBL. You know, in all of our, in whatever job you do, like in whatever career, you're always taught about career prospects and career earnings potential. The longer you stay in England is the lower your stock is. The longer you're in the BBL, like the BBL, if my man on the podcast said the highest they paid anyone is 50K. Yeah. And to do that, you have to be an exceptional franchise player. You're not going to become a franchise player in the BBL just playing in England. And if I'm wrong, if you guys might name me a player that was a franchise player in the BBL that stayed
only
in England.
Played in the BBL.
It's impossible.
Right.
I can't think of one. I don't know.
There isn't one.
There isn't one. They've all the star players in the BBL have all played in America.
Yep,
that's it.
Every single one of them.
Every single one of them.
Just to add on what Chuck was saying, I started as the 11th man on the bench in Milton Keynes, and by the end of my tenure at Milton Keynes, I was starting. So there is some way that I did develop in that aspect. So from 19 years old, I was on the bench. I played a little bit until the American came in. I had a couple double-digit games, and the American came in, then my stock got lower.
my big issue is what a lot of them guys were saying was from what they have behind the scenes, not on the BBL team. Now, a lot of them were talking about, what I have on the BBL, what we have is the opportunity. I've never seen Sheffield, other than Zach Gachette, who they let a woman go on the radio and completely ruin this guy. She was saying how he wasn't good enough to play in the BBL. I've seen Zach Gachette get 24 and 10 in the BBL. That's not good enough to play in the BBL.
Wait. Someone said that on the radio.
There was a lady on the radio in Sheffield saying we had to let Zach go because he wasn't good enough to play BBL, basically.
That's insane.
Literally. But and when we talk about like a lot of the tone was my big problem with what they were saying. The tone was like, we're doing something for you and we're not getting nothing in return for it. That was the tone. The tone of, you guys should come to us and we'll make you do this. Hey, first of all, if I go play for you in the BBL, that's my job now. So you need me to perform as much as I need you to help me. And for me to perform at my best as a young player, it means you need to develop me. It's not sitting here going, oh, we're doing all this for you. Like some of them, oh, we did this for this guy, we did that for that guy.
Yeah.
They helped you win trophies.
Mm-hmm.
Connor Washington helped you win trophies.
Yep.
Jamal Anderson helped you win trophies. Levi Noel helped you win trophies. And by the way, Connor Washington was a professional before he got there. You didn't just pick him up off the road. And Jamal Anderson played at Essex Left Pirates. He wasn't just some random guy.
This is where it gets interesting, what you're saying, because I think overall my biggest concern with how things were said is like it's very clear that there's a disconnect between those who run BBL clubs and the players who aspire to achieve whatever. My concern is that, particularly with the owners that really make up their mind when it comes between, these guys are going to JUCO in the middle of, Western Nebraska and playing nowhere. And then they quickly jump to Cameron Hildreth, who's the hottest thing since sliced bread. Right. No one's been spoken more about it. And you can't talk about, the equivalent of, I don't know, myself, who had no prospects when I was 18, as opposed to somebody who's 17 and knocking teams out the BBL. You can't do that. Right. And then when you start saying stuff like, oh yeah, you need 6 years to develop, then my question is, all right, so let me imagine I'm Cameron. Now, I'm not Cameron at all, but this is how I'd be thinking if I was in that position. It would be like this. Who have you developed over 6 years? Now, if you say Connor Washington or Jamal Anderson, great, but guess what? These guys are unicorns. If you say these two, you can't name anyone else who's been playing 6 years.
The only player that I will give the BBL in terms of someone who they've produced who's been a stud is Darius.
Did Darius turn down a Division 1 contract? And if he did, because here's what I'm going with here. If you believe so much in your development acumen and development potential, why do you need Cameron Hildreth? Why don't you take the third guy at Barking Abbey who probably isn't going D1, who probably the BBL is the best place for him to go?
And I've got an answer for that. Yeah, sorry to cut you off here. The reason why is because if they get a player who's that level, they have to actually work. They don't want to work. They want to finish products that they can just throw in their system.
I have to go back to what you said, Chuck, because you are 100% right. They need someone they don't need to work with. But why get someone who, let's not be dumb here. We know what it looks like, what the BBL looks like to other countries, right? If I told you I'm going to offer you a job this year for 6 years, regardless, it could be 4 years, whatever. But if you got a job to work at, I don't know, the NBA, and I tell you, come play 6 years in the G League when you got a gig at the NBA, or you literally have a shot at the NBA, it becomes a bit like, what are you talking about? And if you believe that you can develop someone in 6 years, you can choose. Look, you've got 4 D1 players here who you can surely improve in 2 years. We don't, all right, look, granted, 6 years, you need 6 years with Cameron Hildreth. There are players in D1. Take someone from D1. Take someone who's not on that level. Take someone who literally hasn't got something better, because it's like you're almost robbing them of the opportunity. Because who can you tell me that is, let's say this. What if Ryan Richards went straight to the BBL when he was 18 or 17? That's what we're talking about. Like, we're talking about guys. I mean, we got Tosin who's got a very similar name to me. I hear Paul Blake saying he shouldn't go to Princeton. Number one, he thought it was Harvard, but let's not even get onto that. He shouldn't go to an Ivy League school, right? An Ivy League school. Man should take down and go to Newcastle University. He will literally become me. I went to Newcastle. You want to go and turn a man, you want to go and turn a 70-year-old boy averaging 20 points in D1 into me.
To play devil's advocate, I know for a fact that there are some academy coaches, that will advise their kids not to play in the BBL. Now, when I heard that, I said, that's not right. I honestly felt like that wasn't right. If a BBL guy gives you an offer and you have, now, for me, the strongest NCAA region, if you understand the structure of the NCAA, it's in regions, right? The strongest NCAA region is the Kansas Jayhawk region, okay? The Kansas Jayhawk region is unbelievable, yeah? If you've got a scholarship to go to a Kansas Jayhawk region, you're an NCAA Division I player, you just didn't get the grades, period, right? But if you're going to a school in Alaska and you have to do line dancing
JUCO,
as
D2,
a course,
and all these type of things,
then maybe you are getting offered a BBL job and your coach from an academy saying, I'm saying maybe now, your coach from your academy is saying, don't go to the BBL because of XYZ. You now need to figure out what they are saying, because if they're mirroring what we are saying and what Chuck is saying and what Justin's saying, and then it's a problem. Because then you need to look back on yourself and go, can I get this kid set 24-hour access to a gym?
Do you even have full-time coaches who are going to work with this kid?
Do you have private healthcare?
3-4 hours, 3-4 hours a day. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to remember this as well. Yeah, it's like let's even take Cameron. Let's take Cameron, because let's say if Cameron.
No. Let's stop using Cameron, man.
No. That's who they reference. Use him. That's who they reference.
Okay. Forget. All right. Forget.
That's
Cameron.
No. That's who they referenced.
Listen.
That's who they reference.
The point. Listen. The point. It's besides the point. But the point I'm making is this: yeah. Let's take someone like a Cameron, and let's say Cameron decided to play in the BBL for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Cameron was just one of the top ranked kids. Is one of the top ranked kids in Europe. Do
Yeah.
you think after 5 years playing in the BBL, his stock in terms of where his career potential is now to where it would be in 5 years' time after 5 years of playing in the BBL, do you think it would go up or do you think it would go down?
It go down.
At best, it will remain the same.
Tosin, do you think you have a chance to go to the NBA like we spoke about before from the BBL?
No.
Okay, so it's not really.
Whoa. No, okay, but here's the thing.
Not saying the same, is it?
No. But we're imagining that he has a chance to go to the NBA now, and he's done a lot. Let's not lie, he's done the most of most kids in his generation in a while, right? But here's what we need to now understand. On one hand, we talk about Cameron. On one hand, we talk about this. Now, Ishmael, I have to go back to what you said. You said these kids that have nothing better to do, Alaska, line dancing, Division II JUCO, NAIA Division II. These type of guys, let's not lie like the BBL want these guys. Let's not act like, you know what, their coach will be right to say don't go there. Because show me someone who's been that caliber that's actually got minutes. In fact, tell me the average minutes played under anyone the age of 20 in the BBL. Or under the age of 22. Show me.
So devil's advocate again, and the problem is, it's Vince again. So I don't want Vince to get isolated through his other peers. But Vince be playing dudes, bro. he had Jordan Spencer running the point at 16 on Sky TV.
But that's one out of 11 teams. That's one out of 11 teams.
No, I'll give Vince that. He does give young players opportunities. Like
but here's the thing. We say Vince, and then you know what? That's part of the problem. Not that Vince doesn't do this stuff. The problem is that we liken. I guess the conversation now becomes: should you play for the BBL or should you play for Vince? And by that logic, means you should play for the Lions, right?
If the Lions go into the Champions League this year, and Vince offered a guy, knowing like Cameron, knowing that he's putting him on the court because of what he's done in the past, and what the Champions League and rotationals, like you saw Leicester in the Champions League. Harrison Gamble started games in the Champions League.
Yeah.
If you guys watch, so now if we're saying now, I'm not dissing Harrison Gamble. I like the guy, but he's not a Cameron Hildreth, right?
Yeah.
So if we're saying, so we're saying you got Justin Robertson who's been a Champions League player, like he just doesn't play in the Champions League. He's ridiculous, yeah. And then you have someone like Cameron Hildreth playing next to him. First of all, you're getting the mentorship, right? Second of all, Vince is fulfilling what he said. Because if Vince says, "Yo, give me Cameron Bernard,"
but let me ask you something. So let me tackle you like this, right? And that is all true because I believe with the extra money that's coming to Lions, it's likely that they'll be playing in some form of international competition, right?
Yeah.
That will satisfy it. But then let me ask you this, Ishmael. Why 6 years then?
I can't tell
If you believe what you're saying, why 6 years? Why 6 years?
What's the deal with the 6 years?
So well, you know, I can't say that, you know, Vince did say this, but this is pretty much, you know, the time of the contract isn't so important. The 6 years isn't the problem because that's one thing to stay standalone. It could be 2 years. It could be 1 year. It depends on the team you're going. I'd rather play 6 years at London Lions, man. If they're playing international competition, that's where I'd rather be. But the thing about 6 years is, let me explain to you what happens in 6 years. Now, I don't know if Leicester Riders planned on being in this international competition for 1 year and then dropping out, right? For whatever reason. I actually don't know the reason, so I don't want to talk on what I don't know. But what I do say is, if you sign a contract for longer than a year and the fragility of British basketball, I mean, the simple question is, let me start with this. Let's say everything happens, right? Basketball Champions League, London Lions are leading the league in everything. Like somehow they win all the games, right? Cameron Hildreth gets injured in November. Explain to me what happens now. This is the question we have to talk about. It's a gamble. It's a Harrison gamble to play in the BBL.
Listen,
you are rolling the dice in your career.
It's a big risk to take.
So, by that logic, I know this sounds dumb, but I'm just as likely to hit a game winner from the halfway line as I am to hit one off the dribble as a 2-point. It's just, you just don't know which one's gonna go in. You know, that's you don't know. So it's like one of those type of things where. And I think, let me play devil's advocate because I don't want to sound like I'm against what the owners have said. What I'm trying to say is that they need to try and understand the perspective of players. Players seldom play to become BBL players. And also, they also look at what has the guy done before me and how can I get as close to that as possible. Now, if we're talking about Connor Washington is going to be 30 soon, you know. I mean, he's not 30 now. He's a bit, you know, I think he's about 28.
He's 28.
He's about 28. Yeah. But realistically, the disconnect, that's 10 years. That's 11 years older than Cameron. You can't use that as an example. Who's been after him?
Now,
in 11
now,
years.
Let's be honest with the Connor Washington situation. Connor Washington's, like, that's my brother, right? But his stock, we don't know where his stock went because it took him 10 years to break into that. It took him 10 years to break into the GB team. When he was 17, he was cooking the England team. I watched him in the MK Arena. Cooking the England team on MK College and scrimmages. He was cooking them. And then he went to America. And then he came back. The Cameron Hildreth, I don't know why they used him. And the reason why I think they used him, I don't think they could name another player on that Barking Abbey team that went to Europe. Now, Cameron Hildreth did great things. I can name the whole team. I know the whole team's roster. And I know the guys that don't even play on Barking Abbey. Cameron wasn't the only guy that doesn't play on Barking Abbey. Their knowledge of the youth proves that I'm old as hell. They're not a priority. Because no one spoke about Myers Cole for the 2 hours. Myers Cole just won the EYBL. They just won the EYBL.
Well, here's the thing, Ishmael. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you why, because there's a fundamental issue of, you know, British basketball kind of having this mentality of, we only want you if you're better than us, but, you know, we'll take you. And it's not just with juniors. It's not just with juniors. I mean, I don't want to say any names because you all know these guys and it's none of my business to be saying it like that. But we know guys that have played in the BBL, come from higher levels. And you know what? To get back out on the market, they struggle. That's the reality of it. This is outside of British basketball's jurisdiction. They shouldn't care. But the truth is they need to be conscious of what's going on. To go and say, okay, all right, the reason I haven't said Maisco is because they kind of want the hot sensation who might sell tickets. Or maybe they believe that he's that good. But then I ask you, is Cameron the best guy in the D1? I don't think he is. I mean, he's good. He's nice. He's definitely the biggest prospect, no doubt. But you know what? There's so many other guys you could use, right? All right, let me give you an example.
Is there so many young guys you could use? Because if he's not the best player in D1, for me, Alex Owumi is better than Cameron. So that means he's not even the best player on Worthing Thunder. But like, there's not another youth player like Cam. That's what I'm trying to say. For me, Cameron and Jeremy Sochan are NBA prospects. I will say that clear. And if I'm wrong, I don't care. Like I said Ovi was going to the league, and if it wasn't for Draymond Green playing well, Ovi would be on Golden State Warriors. That's a fact. If you speak to Ovi and you have a conversation with him, that's just the fact. Ashley Hamilton should have played in the NBA. You listen to his podcast, you find out he had a bad knee, and that's why he had bad workouts with the Lakers.
Are we right? Or are we right? I think it's worth understanding why players play the game. People don't get glamour from playing in the BBL right now. And I'll tell you something else that's quite interesting as well. And I reference what Chuck says. You know, we'll pay someone 20 to 30K a year, right? Now, that runs one assumption, number one. I don't know which one said it because I can't remember the names very well. But someone said that the budget is $250,000 across the team and they spread it evenly. That's running the assumption that everyone in the BBL
that was jury.
But that's running an assumption that everyone in the league gets paid for one.
Yeah.
That's assuming that everyone uses the entire salary cap. Now, I'm not here to say who gets paid and who doesn't get paid.
The way they get around that, especially with the young players, like, we'll offer you a scholarship or we'll do this for you. We'll do that for you.
That's fine, though, but that's fine. That's fine.
Well, that's fine. But where's the P's? It's a professional league.
No. That's fine.
No. Listen.
What do you mean? They should get
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, listen. I tell you now, yeah. If a team offered me a scholarship to university and housing as an 18, 19-year-old, that is a great deal. To play in the BBL, that's a great deal.
If you don't have a D1 scholarship.
If you don't believe me, next time you get paid, go check your student loan deduction and tell me.
It's not that much, you know. You know, it doesn't. A lot doesn't come out of my account, bro. It's the balance that looks wicked.
Yeah, you check that balance.
It's the balance that's wicked.
Barely touching it.
At the end of the day, yeah, you know, I believe in, you know, giving people their market value. You know what I mean? Like them, if they are a stud at 18 and they want to stay in England and they want to play in the BBL and they're just as good as any starter, all these guys you've got coming in, all these imports, then give them the bag.
But Chuck,
if they're not a finished product as an 18-year-old, giving them a scholarship makes sense.
They should be introducing players from the age of 16, really. Like, we need to develop players till they're 16. Why are we waiting till they're 18? That's too late.
No, I agree. I said this on I think it's on you lot's show, innit?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing that I've always said with the BBL teams. I feel like every program in the BBL should have a development pathway, like Leicester does, in a sense where they've got the Charnwood, the junior riders, the Loughborough setup. That pathway that should be compulsory for every team in the BBL.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether you, like Vince said, partner up with institutions around, or whether you do it organically from the bottom up. That's the only way you're gonna get 16-year-olds, 15, 16-year-olds who are ready to play.
Ricky Rubio made his debut at age 14.
But this is what I'm trying to say. They have to start younger. And
I agree with what Chuck said. I agree with what Chuck said, yeah. Only in theory, because there's not a player from Charnwood, and Charnwood's been going since, I want to say, 2014. There's not a player that's come through the entire pathway from Charnwood to the Leicester Riders. There is not one.
Let me 5 BBL players that have come from juniors. So, like Newcastle Eagles, they got under 8s league, under 10 league. Tell me someone that's come from that junior league all the way to play professional for one of the BBL teams.
Eddie Matthews.
Eddie Matthews.
Yeah, but let me tell you something about Eddie Matthews. He went to
Plymouth. What language is that?
He went to Plymouth and he went to Leeds. So he was looking for a better deal. So we can say, we gave him an opportunity. No, you didn't, because he's still looking for that deal to play where he thinks he's the level. And no disrespect to Eddie Matthews, but he's super limited, bro. He's super limited.
He's not really playing.
He catches and shoots. Now, the problem I'm having, the biggest problem I had with the entire podcast is that it alienates every single player that thinks coming back to this country is an option. If you look at how you recruit as the Leicester Riders, as not the London Lions per se anymore, but the Sheffield Sharks, if you look, you scour the earth of America, yeah? Not only looking for an American, you're looking for an American with a British passport, an American with an Italian passport, an American with an Armenian passport. Anything to fill that spot with something that is not purely British. For you to then go at the kids who are watching how you recruit players, how you got Tyler Bernardini into the country, how you got Jordan Spencer paying, now you're paying Jordan Spencer. No one wanted Jordan Spencer when he was 16 except Vince. But now, let's chase Jordan Spencer around. After he went and played against Coach K.
After he went to America.
And won a chip in Division 2. And you want to like everyone's talking about, we should have got Jordan Spencer. None of you offered Jordan Spencer except Vince.
And I think we spoke about this, Tosin. It's so crazy how they said all this stuff about going to America and going to the middle of nowhere, yada yada yada.
Yes.
Why is it that the players who go to America are the ones that are highly touted after at 22? Why is it not players from Division 1? The only coach that really recruits from Division 1 is Andreas in Bristol.
I'm going to mention something that Paul Blake said, yeah? Paul Blake, he's mentioned Solent. He was like, if Solent should get promoted into the BBL, he's like, I don't know much about the D1. He admitted it. And I think
there has to be a knowledge. There has to be a knowledge and an interest, an active interest for sure.
Yeah, I don't think they care. They don't care what's in D1. They're like, okay.
There's players in D1 that will go to the BBL and get buckets.
Real talk.
I mean, we've seen that.
I know
we've seen that.
There's players in D1 that will go to the BBL and get buckets.
And he didn't do it. Like, literally, that's what happened.
Before we go, I want to go back to what Ishmael said about the search for the recruiters. You know what? You said it best. What hope, what has happened in the past that leads people to believe that they're going to get minutes? I mean, if I have a Division 1 scholarship, realistically, how do I know that me going to the BBL will end up in me being the man? Right now, there's nothing that even suggests that could be possible. But let me throw another spanner in the works. You're not allowed to have 4 Americans in the league. So tell me this. Can you imagine recruiting 4 Americans and these guys don't want to get buckets? Number one, whether British guys do it or not, the Americans for real use this league as a stepping stone league. This is no secret. Yep. You can go in Eurobasket, find where any players played, right? They go play in Finland, let's say Ladarius Tab, they go play in NM1, France. These are the places where these guys are headed. Now, realistically, you have to ask yourself this question. Every guy and every American that comes to these can at least take enough shots to try and average 10. So how many shots are there going to be for homeboy over here?
If you got a 7-man rotation, you got 4 Americans, 1 EU guy, and 1 American guy with a British passport. That happens. So I'm not just talking out my wazoo. That happens. Mm-hmm. You've got 1 more spot for a British guy.
You said something
it's not
very
going to be
key.
the under 20, is it?
There was something that Vince said that's very related to what Ishmael said, right? I think number one, a goal is having 12 players on the roster. Teams are traveling with 7 and 8. So where's that spot coming from? And now you're dividing this 200. So let's imagine, right? 250,000 divided equally across 7. I'm not going to do the maths too long, but you know what? There are guys in the BBL that play 4 minutes a game. There's guys that go 4 games without playing. I find it hard to believe that these guys will be paid. And if they are getting paid, you know what I mean? Send some of that bread to me because I can come right around and not play. You know what I mean?
What is the incentive? What is the motivation for me to stay around? Oh, okay, I'm getting a scholarship. Okay, that's fine. But what else are you getting from it? There has to be a bigger package that they're giving these players. That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not saying that players shouldn't, and I think BBL is a good development league for a lot of players, British players. Yeah. If they get the right role, they cannot be just okay. They might play, they might not play.
I know a lot of players that play in the BBL, and from what for discussions I've had is they don't have the kind of this compared to the stuff they have in the States.
Well, of course they don't. Do you know why they don't? Do you know why it's impossible that they don't?
They don't have the money.
Let me tell you why. No. I don't know what the facilities they have actually, but I'll tell you why I know that they don't have this. Is because they play against me in the off season. If you play against me in the off season in the park, surely that means that there's something that's not there. Now I know these kids stay in summer school, working on their body, but you know what? Here's the thing, right? If we really believe in the British basketball development system, honestly, if they think that D1 isn't as good as BBL for development, I can allow that. But then the answer to it is this, right? Then work with the guys. And surely, if you believe your development system so bad, it shouldn't matter if they go to college for 4 years. Because guess what? Still 2 more yet left in your development program, right? And also, let's talk about where the Americans come from. These Americans aren't, from central London. These guys are coming from D1, the very place that you're choosing your team.
Recruiting all your players from. So it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, man. Like, I want to touch on JUCO because I don't like the way JUCO's thrown around by these guys. JUCO, like when I was in America, my coach at prep school went to JUCO, and I was even recruited by a couple of junior colleges as well. And the way he described junior colleges essentially, it's for players who are good enough to play D2, D1, those scholarship levels, but either don't have the grades, aren't physically developed, aren't physically ready, need a bit more work to become, you know, ready for that level, or, you know, they haven't had the offers that they wanted. But make no mistake about it, junior college basketball is tough. Like, it is tough. Like, the top of junior college, like basketball, those teams are as good as Division 1 mid-majors. Like, they are loaded. I don't like this perception that junior college in this place is shitty and this, because I tell you now, man, if I'd tell a young player, if you have an opportunity to go to a junior college, go to junior college. Because junior college, number one, again, development. Junior college is, a lot of it is about playing loads, training loads. Like, it's kind of like college on steroids. Two, this is the main thing. This is the biggest thing. The PPL isn't going anywhere. If you go to JUCO and come back, the opportunity.
You will be a better player. Or worst case scenario, BBL can pick up right on their development program.
I don't think the BBL are sorting to recruit English players. They're not. Again, once a player has gone overseas and comes back, then they're a better commodity to the team. They're like, okay,
if they graduate from D1 or D2.
No, wait, no.
JUCO. There are very few people who go JUCO that BBL want. They're very few.
I disagree. I think the BBL does want British players. They want British players more than they want Americans. They just want the top guys, but they can't afford the top guys.
This is the problem, though. Why don't you take what you have? If you take the model of Lithuania, who, you know, they're not the richest country, they're a small nation. All right, everyone's basketball mad there, but guess what? They look within. What about some German protectionist rules? And I'll let Ishmael talk a bit about that in a second. But in short, I know that, you know, and I don't want to say this in Donald Trump format, but let's make British basketball British again, for crying out loud. Let's have two guys under 23 playing. So then, you know, when they're 23, you know, they've developed enough to either be a contributor in the BBL or they can go about their business elsewhere. But the thing is this, right? Kids are getting penalized for going to junior college. Like, I'll give you a good example. The best kid in ABL, EABL, in fact, the majority of players are still going to junior college. That's where they're headed, regardless right now, right? Yeah. You're telling me that, you know, they can't be picked up upon when they're 20. You're looking for the next best thing. Well, the problem with that sends a terrible message. It sends the message that we're not valued abroad, but we're not valued at home. And this is the worst picture you could ever paint. We're British. In America, you're English. You go back to England, you didn't go D1. So you're English. Right. So you're English. So go play D1, right? You're not looking out for D1. You're scratching your head when Solent overperform. You know, and they're not the first. Shout out to Worthing, who beat Manchester Giants as well. Shout out to Essex.
I'm sorry the year before.
There've been teams beating BBL teams for a while. And then the only question I have to ask, the question I have to ask is this: why are we disregarded in this sense? Why? And this isn't a place of bitterness. I mean, I've gone past my prime of playing days or even desire to play the BBL. But the issue why we're all here is about seeing history repeat itself. I can't have someone 18 who is like me end up quitting basketball by the time they're 21, right? We need to separate guys who are going to up the level of the game in terms of improving British basketball and those who watch who watch games. Because there was a whole lot of talk about, you know, and I think it was Paul Blake that said it, but, you know, I think there are more than one person that feel this way. You guys start when you're underage, play basketball, and eventually one day you'll become a fan or an investor. So do you know what that tells me? Maybe we're defying the system. Maybe we're not actually supposed to be playing basketball now. And they're scratching their heads thinking, why is Tosin playing D1 and not a season ticket holder already? And the answer is because in the times where it was relevant, I wasn't wanted. And the times where I have money, right, or even the desire or reason to go and play, guess what? I got my D1 games in the weekend. Sorry, I'm in Leicester. I'm in Loughborough, so I can't watch a Leicester game. I watch it on YouTube. So, you know, you need to ask, what is the value of players in the basketball ecosystem? More power needs to go to the players, or at least more consideration. Let's not say power. More consideration needs to go to the players because, you know, we touched on it earlier. Ricky Rubio, 14. Now, I'm going to make a long shot here because I don't actually know how the guy played when he was 14, but I'm almost certain that Cameron Hildreth is better now than he was when he was 14. Yeah, right? I'm almost certain of it. I don't know it for sure, but We
Cameron
have to
can
make the
shoot.
assumption.
That's just the
Right?
bottom line. Cameron can shoot. Like
But
we couldn't shoot.
But the question is this: there are a whole lot of guys killing it who will never get a look in the BBL. A whole lot. And you know what? I don't want to, because I know Vince is the one who spoke about Cameron Hildreth, so it sounds like I'm targeting him. But then realistically, think about what we said. He is offering these young guys chances. I've seen Aaron Badiba play. I've seen Moses. Is it Moses? No, Jonathan James play there.
Jonathan James.
I've seen
in
him
the playoffs.
I've seen him bring in guys like Lamar who were playing Division 4 and allowing him to play in the BBL. So we can't take away from him, but we need to, if anything, we need to all have a standard. We can't all be like, all nodding, yes, we're going to give these guys a chance when you're fielding 7 men. You're fielding 7 men.
My thing is this year, and like, I don't want to, I've always said, like, you know, a coach doesn't owe any player minutes. Like, that's the bottom line. We've all played.
Yeah, that's true.
Coach don't owe no one minutes. My only gripe with this whole thing is, I think the BBL lacks, what I sort of took away from that is that they lack the self-awareness of where they are in the ecosystem of basketball and what they can offer players. Again, what my biggest thing is, like, you cannot offer, if you can't offer 24
This video was
hour
made by your
access to
boy
a
Tos
facility,
P.
trainers,
And this is the Baller's
full-time
voice.
trainers who
Make
are
sure
going
that you're
to
following,
skills
share, leave a
development,
comment, and all that good
nutritionists,
stuff.
if you can't offer strength and conditioning all year round, if you can't offer those things, you can't tell a player not to go to America.
Yeah.
Whether they go to America and have a shitty experience and come back, you can't tell them not to go to America. And I'll be the first one to say America's not for everybody, because some players, America's designed for players like that, who can, 1, create their own shot, 2, have a good level of athleticism, 3, who can play with the pace of America. America's fast. Even at high school, America's fast. So I'll even say America's not for everybody. But it's like, I can tell you, you know, stealing's bad. Yeah? Stealing's bad. But if I can't offer you an alternative way
to stealing,
to
stealing
fill your belly up, I
Yeah.
can't really tell you not to steal food. Do you know what I'm saying? If I can't offer you an alternative, like a legitimate alternative to feed your belly, I can't really say that. You know what I'm saying? Just like these BBL teams can't tell guys, don't go to America. To play at God knows who for God knows what in front of, you know what I mean? Where I'm going to be training 3 times a week, and the only basketball I get is team practices.
To go back to the junior college thing, I don't think every player should go to junior college. In fact, I think the average player should not go to junior college. And it's very weird to say that, and I'll tell you why. The simple answer is prospects.
I support you, Tosin. I support you.
What does going to junior college, in comparison to staying in England, what does staying in England give you of against going to junior college?
All right. Number one, for those who don't understand really what junior college is, it is basically a foundation degree in America, right? You do your first 2 years of college. College is university, aka college in America, is 4 years. But for 2 of those, you can opt to do like a foundation kind of degree. That's the closest thing I can say. But the problem is that it's not equivalent to a foundation degree, Chuck. So for those guys who go junior college, until there's respect in England for them, like, you know, you've gone junior college, here's your place, even there they shouldn't go. And it's weird to say that, because there are some guys that are prospects that should go. I would almost say, and it's weird to say this, because I would almost say there's a height requirement to go into junior college as a standard. Now, we can reference people like Ogo, who led the NCAA in minutes, who went to junior college. But again, is Ogo the uniform standard of people that go to junior college? No. The average guard that goes to
America at 16.
I hear that, but the average guy that goes to junior college who's a guard does not get a Division 1 scholarship. The last guy that did that was Amin Adamu. Before that, I couldn't even tell you who it was.
Okay,
it might have been Ogo. I couldn't even tell you who the last guard was.
Fair enough, yeah. But again, 2 years in junior college, does that hamper your chances of playing in the BBL?
Yes.
In theory, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't,
because
but it does.
Because what you've done anyway is shown all these players that you only recruit guys who have gone to America anyway. So in theory, it doesn't.
Let me ask you something. Name me one guy who's gone junior college that's played BBL. There probably are some, but I couldn't tell you one.
Dean Wallace.
Yeah. Right. Dean Wallace.
Name me 2. And also, was he 18 when he went?
I don't know how
Young,
old.
bruv, I
I
don't
don't know
know.
how
Dean
old he
Wallace has got some
I don't know
ambiguous
how old
age,
he
you know.
He wasn't 18.
Man cooks like a 50-year-old man, you know. The way he cooks food, like we don't know how old he is.
All right, so Dean Wallace won. Can someone tell me
What about
second?
Denzel?
Levi Noel.
Levi Noel went to a Division 1 school.
He went
Maybe
to,
went somewhere else afterwards. He was in Eastern
but his
Illinois.
Division 1. Yeah, he went to JUCO first. And his D1 school, he didn't even stay. He didn't even finish his freshman year.
Yeah, but once you go Division 1, that's out the picture. You played Division 1 You've shown levels.
I said that. I said that about
criteria.
Connor. I said that about Connor, and I said Connor played Division 2 for a semester or 3 semesters, and they were like, no, it doesn't count because he wasn't there a whole year. So
Yeah,
I
Listen,
don't know what the criteria.
I just want to know why a BBL coach would get a call from a player who's played JUCO for 2 years and say, "Now we don't want him."
I'll tell you why.
Overplayed.
Because this is
because they're too
thing.
busy trying to get the guys that should be playing higher divisions than BBL, so it kind of pushes people out the way. That's kind of what it is.
Let's say if my my son was 18 years old, yeah, you're a GM on a BBL team, you want to sign him at 18, yeah, he's not, he's all right, he can play potential. I say he wants to go to JUCO. He goes to JUCO for 2 years, doesn't get a scholarship, comes back, he's exactly the same player. So you're saying him going for those 2 years, he's now no longer, there's no longer any value.
Well, I'm telling you that's what currently happens, because let's reference what we heard properly. Let me reference what we heard properly on the podcast. Guys going back to America and coming back worse. Isn't that?
Yeah,
did you not hear that?
That's crazy.
But
That doesn't happen.
That rarely happens.
No.
I've not
they
seen
may lose
one
IQ, but that's
player.
not a standard.
What do you
That
mean
rarely
IQ?
happens. Bro,
the thing is, the thing that
Well,
kills
this is
me
what I'm saying about
about
what I
that.
was told.
Listen, just off playing, being in American practices, you are coming back to England better. Trust me when I tell you that. You are going. There's no way that if you want to take all the players you've gone to America and come back, to say that anything less than the vast minority have come back worse is absolutely outrageous.
Okay, but
about a couple of people who've gone to America and come back worse.
But
the key word is worse.
I didn't even want to get into that because that was such a stupid.
Because that
point,
is
man.
the
I didn't even want to
stupidest
get into
point
it.
I've ever heard in my life, bro.
no, but what I'm
coming
saying
to America
is,
coming back worse.
no, but it's not that they're coming back worse. They're just not playing at the level that they should be. That their perspective level, like that's what they're saying.
That's what they mean. That's what they mean. But the question is,
worse.
how can we know where they should have been? How can we possibly know that?
Yeah.
So, T, the reason why that's not what they mean, because again, right, when we didn't talk about tiers, we talked about the best of the best. Now,
exactly. We didn't talk about
they don't. No one knows one player that they're interested in right now that's gone to junior college. There is not. Listen, the geezer.
They're not interested. You're not hearing.
The geezer at the Riders said we've sent 19 guys. We've sent 19 guys to junior college, 19 girls and guys, whatever. We said, let's say they sent 10 men and 9 girls to colleges in America, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't you offer Hosanna Kitenge a scholarship, a contract, if you're worried that they're going to come, if he's worried he's going to come back worse? Why didn't you offer Blaze Sagna? If you got Blaze Sagna, you just committed to a school. If the case is a lot of these players come back worse, you've got them in your because he's one of the guys that said it. You've got these guys in your. He didn't even interject or defend these guys. So even if he didn't say it, he's complicit, right? You've got these guys in your ledger right now. Let's say you sent 10 of them to America. None of them got offered to play on Leicester Riders. None of them. You said a lot of them ain't good enough to play in the BBL. You literally just said that.
There's a fundamental problem, because I could just imagine them listening to this and how they come back. It's very easy to go and say, yes, we will offer Hosanna. Yes, we did play Hosanna. But the problem is that, do you have to be as good to get a Division 1 scholarship to stay in BBL? If that's the only way, then that's another way. And you need to tell me if I'm wrong. If you need to get something like a Division 1 scholarship or a legitimate pro offer or a standpoint that you're a prospect to be valued as the BBL, the fundamental story that's being painted, written, is that British players have no value. If that's what you're saying, don't be surprised when I choose to play in front of 6 people for Westminster Warriors and not go watch a BBL game, because I still want to play. I'm in my heart, I'm still a young kid. I'm the kid that enjoys basketball. I didn't play basketball with intention of being a fan. If you want to be a fan, just switch, just program my TV to only show basketball. And maybe that's the way. But the problem we're having is I don't want to hear all this EABL guys who got scholarships talking about that. There are hella guys who don't get these scholarships that can be used. How many guys are 6'8" walking around without scholarships?
Bro.
Or let's just use the junior college guys alone.
Yeah.
Just the junior college guys.
I can't lie. If I was a BBL GM, like those are the guys I'd be going for. A 20-year-old who's gone to America, it hasn't worked out, but he can play a little. That to me is those are the kind of guys you go for, because you can't compete with the guys who are 4-year players in America. Those guys will do their 4 years and God knows where.
The
junior college guys,
Right. So
junior college guys, those are the guys they should be going for. The guys who have gone to America, it hasn't worked.
That's where Russell gets to prove his point, because Russell did get
Connor,
and he did take one less, and he did take Levi. He did take them guys, but in the same breath, there's still not a pathway, because he's gonna say that they came through that, but they didn't. So I agree with you. That's definitely the guys you should be looking at. But Levi didn't play a bunch of years when he was at Leicester.
All right, here's my crazy analogy, right? If you go to America on a Division 1 scholarship, which Levi did, right? And I won't say Division 2 because, typically looking for Division 1, it might apply to this as well. But guys, challenge me on this. If you go Division 1, right, you could be from the country that plays the least basketball in the world. You could be from literally Antarctica. You are a Division 1 player, which in my head at least, makes you like technically an American. You mentioned Danny Carter, Stony Brook, Division 1, technically an American. British, but technically an American. And if you don't believe me, go and show me the guys who have gone somewhere big from D1, NCAA, and show me the guys that have not done it. You find Miles Hessen being the best to do it ever, really, who hasn't gone D1. Yep. You find the other guys who are kind of like considered British. That's the fact of it. So what are we going to do? Are we going to say, fine, we only want guys that have been Division 1, but if in that same breath you say that, then let the kids go.
Right.
But if you don't mean that, then say that and keep us when we haven't gone D1. Don't be in between saying, oh, yes, sometimes, and Nebraska Division 2, because those Nebraska Division 2 kids maybe weren't supposed to play basketball.
There are a lot of good players that never got offers to play college. Like
Brendan Okoronkwo.
Listen, like there are a lot of good players, man. Like, but
surely you should trust the system of America to develop that kid. And if you believe the BBL is on the upwards trajectory that it is, then really and truly you should have no problem. Because if the BBL is set to be off, let's say I'm 18, I have a Division 1 scholarship. When I come back from Duke, right, I don't make the NBA. Maybe the BBL is in the place where you can offer me the money that I want. But why not? Why take a player who's a prospect any sooner than them? That is the main thing. That's what I'm getting at. And this isn't to say that BBL are doing everything wrong. There are a lot of things they're doing right. But I think it's worth. I think the whole purpose that we're here is to reflect that the community sees things differently.
This video was made by your boy Tos P, and this is the Baller's Voice. Make sure that you're following, share, leave a comment, and all that good stuff.